In this video, I'm going to share 5 practical tips on getting a decent night's sleep. Tip number 1, having an early dinner. Ideally, you don't want to be having a big meal within 3 hours of going to sleep. The reason for this is that when our bodies start digesting food, they start to warm up, bodies start to cool down, which sends signals to our brain that it's time to go to sleep. Typically, our body temperatures drop about 1 degree Celsius as we're falling asleep. Now, you also don't want to be going to sleep really hungry either, because there's nothing worse than trying to sleep with a rumbling tummy. If you're anything like me, you'll have had experience of having a really big meal before going to bed and then really struggling to sleep because you just simply can't get comfortable. Tip number 2, keeping your body and room cool. The easiest way to actually achieve this is by opening a window, depending on where you are in the world and what the temperature is outside. If you don't like sleeping with the window open, maybe you've got noise issues where you are, just open it a couple of hours before you go to sleep, let that fresh cool air come into your room and then close it when you do go to bed. According to sleepadvisor.org, keeping your room cool does actually help you fall asleep for similar reasons for tip number 1. Our bodies start to cool down, so anything that we can do to support that really does help. If your room is warm, it can impede that from happening and we take longer to fall asleep because of it. We've all been there on a hot summer's night when it's almost impossible to get comfortable. Also dress light. Many people like to sleep starkers. I prefer shorts and t-shirt, but whatever tickles your fancy. But just don't dress too warm when you go to bed. Tip number 3, no screen time before bed. When I personally cut out screen time before bed, it made a huge difference to my ability to fall asleep. In my younger days when I was playing on Xbox or PlayStation before sleep, I really struggled to go to bed because my mind was whizzing away. There are a couple of reasons we don't want to be using our mobile devices and things like that when we're trying to fall asleep. One reason is because of all the stimulation our phones and mobile devices give us when we're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And the second reason is because of all the blue light our devices emit. This blue light actually mimics daylight, which is the opposite signal we want to be sending to our brains. According to Cleveland Clinic, that blue light actually suppresses our ability to produce melatonin, which is the hormone which governs our sleep cycle. When you're low on melatonin, it can actually cause you to suffer from insomnia, irritability and tiredness. So try and ditch the phone at least 30 minutes before bed, and if you use it as your alarm clock, maybe invest in a traditional alarm clock where it doesn't have that screen. If you absolutely have to use your phone, then one thing that you can do is actually change the screen to a red screen so you can still read it but it doesn't emit as much blue light. This is actually a handy tip if you're doing some stargazing because red light doesn't ruin your night vision as much as any other light. I've included a link below on how you can do this on an iPhone. Tip number 4, exercise. Now this is a really big one for me. I exercise in some form pretty much every day, and if for whatever reason I don't exercise for a few days, I really struggle to sleep. There have been a number of studies conducted on why exercise helps us sleep. However, nothing has actually pinpointed the exact reason. All these trials actually point towards the fact that yes, people do sleep better when they've been exercising, but nothing is pinpointed why. I mean, it could just be because our bodies are a little bit extra tired and they need that rest. But as yet, there hasn't been a pinpointed scientific reason. Now, if anybody has any data to the contrary, please do put a comment below. Just don't exercise right before bed. You want to be relaxing as we start to try to sleep, not throwing our heart rates up really high. Which leads me to tip number 5, relax. As we start that process of trying to get some sleep, we really need to put our minds and bodies in a state of relaxation. Now, this can be as simple as reading a book whilst you're in bed. This is a really nice way to settle down. I personally do this. You can meditate if that tickles your fancy, which is also a really good way of settling down for the night. And if you really struggle, you can try varying breathing exercises. One really great way that I find to relax is actually breathing in for 6 seconds and breathing out for 6 seconds through your nose. And this was actually a little tip in James Nestor's book Breathe, which is a fantastic book, by the way. So there you have it. Those are 5 really practical, easy tips to implement on trying to get a good night's sleep. Comment below and give up some of the tips that you find work for you. Cheers.